the 7 deadly sins, and the 7 virtues. You overcome lust by chastity. You overcome sloth or laziness by right action. You overcome gluttony, which is overindulgence in food and drink and overindulgence in every area, with temperance or balance or moderation, you might say. The wrath is overcome by love, but the bridge between wrath, which is extreme anger, is forgiveness. I didn't write forgiveness down, but forgiveness is the bridge between wrath and love. And then greed is overcome by altruism or generosity or doing good to others and giving to others. Envy is overcome by happiness for others. So when someone gets something that you're like, oh, I wish I had that, then you can be happy for them when they get something, because that happiness that you have will help to attract that into your life. So you don't envy them. You are just happy for them because you know that you can also receive things from good. And then pride is overcome by humility. Pride can be, humility can be when you are neither better than nor worse than anyone else. You don't consider yourself, when you're humble is when you don't consider yourself to be superior or inferior to anyone. Now, the reason that I created this visual aid was to show how all of these, and I numbered them and colored them a particular way because I wanted to show how they're connected to the energy centers in the body. So I'm going to show you the whole poster. Here we go. Let's get it. And I created this poster, but this part of the poster I did not create. This Laila Sell did this sitting Buddha meditation. So the lust is in the root chakra. Okay, and chastity is how we overcome it. Sloth is in the 2nd chakra. It's also known as the navel, and this is the church that it's associated with in the book of Revelation, and this is the Sanskrit word for it. Gluttony is associated with the solar plexus or stomach, and that makes sense because gluttony is associated with overeating. Wrath is associated with the heart, and of course love is how we overcome wrath, and forgiveness is the bridge, and love is in the heart. And greed is associated with the throat chakra, and these are the churches, by the way. Those are the churches that these are associated with. And altruism with, so the throat chakra has a lot to do with speaking and thinking. So that makes a lot of sense. Your thoughts precede your actions, and your thoughts precede your words. And then envy is associated with the third eye or brow chakra. And that's interesting because envy is usually through the eyes first. And this chakra is definitely associated with the eyes, with seeing. And so you see someone has something that you wish you had, and then envy can happen, or happiness for others is what we prefer to happen. And then pride is associated with the crown chakra. And that's interesting because, you know, kings wear crowns, and the top of the head is associated with, you know, being better than. So it's important that once you do, you know, bring your energy all the way up through your chakra systems to the top of the head, that you keep humility and remember where you came from. And for many people, it was like way below their first energy center. You just have to remember, hey, I may be enlightened, I may be in oneness with God, but I have gone through all the struggles that people continue to struggle with, and they're just like my younger brothers and sisters that I can help along the path, because you don't think that you're better than anyone else. But you also don't compare yourself to anyone else, even if this is the place where you're at, here or here, and you don't think, I'm so horrible, I'm worse than everyone on the planet. No, we just, humility is about not comparing yourself to other people. It's about recognizing that, everyone is different, but we all are, the same in God's eyes. Like, He sees us and He sees our potential, and He knows who we really are, and He knows where we're really going. So the main goal in life for all of us here is to remember our unity with God. That is our real goal. And we do that by overcoming. You overcome in every chakra. You need to overcome lust. That is a big one. That's the worst and the hardest for most people. But once you get there, then you can begin to overcome sloth, gluttony, wrath, greed, envy, and pride. And as you overcome, and you're working through stuff, you're working through memories and things from your childhood and traumas. There are things that in your childhood that will try to keep your energy down. There's literally enemies in the world that work for the devil, and they want to keep your energy down. Because if your energy stays down, then they can extract it. And they hunt that energy. They hunt human souls, and they hunt that energy, and they want to keep you down. They don't want you to realize your fullest potential. And all of us have the potential to climb this ladder and reach to the highest pinnacle, which is realization of oneness with God, realization that what Jesus talked about in the book of John. If you look, and during the Last Supper, He had a lot to say about oneness. And in the book of the Revelation, He said that He sat down with His Father in the throne, and that we can also be sat down with Him in His throne. That is oneness. But there's a lot of overcoming. You can't enter that oneness if you are full of these sins. You have to get rid of these sins. And you do it by combating them with their virtues, but you also do it by repentance, daily repentance. If you ever mess up, okay, if you ever have even a thought or even a dream, okay, because if you're dreaming about any of these things, that's still something coming from you, probably, or something that you are in alignment with. It may be someone, you may have entered into someone else's dream, because that can happen. But if you are dreaming about it, then there's something still in you that you need to get rid of. If you have a dream that's full of lust, then you know that that's something you need to get out of yourself. You need to get that lust out of yourself by practicing chastity. And you need to learn what that means to be chaste, because you can also be in a marriage and be chaste. You're just not acting on that impulse every time you have that impulse, even with your spouse. Instead, you plan the times that you're going to be with your spouse, and it probably shouldn't be more than once a month. And the time that you're with your spouse should be when, for the woman, when her body is most receptive to it. And that should be during ovulation. And if you're not wanting to get pregnant, then you need to use some type of birth control. But you should still be having that intimacy with your partner once a month during the time when her body is actually receptive to it. Some couples even want to go longer, and some couples want to work together to just be completely celibate together. And there are celibate marriages. I'm thinking they're fairly rare, but yeah. Now I'm going to brag a little bit, but it's only to brag on God and Jesus and the power that He's given me to overcome in these areas. So I have completely overcome lust. Like, I can't remember the last time I felt any lust for anyone. So that, 2010 was the last time I ever engaged in anything sexual. And not had any lust. So I've completely overcome lust. But it wasn't easy, and it took years, and I had to be dedicated to it. I had to do the research, the due diligence, and many spiritual practices and many asceticisms. And I'm not saying it's easy, because the first one is the hard one. The first one is the hardest. Well, at least for me it was. Maybe some people it's not that hard. Okay, so sloth, that was something that I had to overcome. All of these, really. I've overcome all of these. And I'm not saying it to be proud, because I don't feel like I'm better than anyone. I feel like I am everyone's sister. I don't feel, and everyone is my sister and brother. I don't feel like I'm less than anyone or better than anyone. And I also cannot say that I have tripped the light fantastic. Not in a long time. I have had experiences, but there is an experience that a person can have, and I haven't had it yet. And it's not because I haven't overcome all these things, but it's because my Kundalini has not completely risen in a while. Now, I have had experiences where it's risen, and that's just me anyway. But yeah, I do occasionally have anger, though, and I will say that there is a righteous anger. As long as you don't stay wrapped up in it, you're not in wrath. But you can quickly turn that anger to forgiveness, and then it turns into love when you recognize, and this is key to forgiveness. I'm going to tell you the key to forgiveness. When Jesus was on the cross and he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." That is the entire key to forgiveness. If you want to forgive someone who has done something very grievous, I'll tell you something that was very grievously done to me. I was severely ritually abused with the sex abuse that comes with that as a child, and even as an adolescent and adult. It kept happening. And the people who did that to me were possessed by demons. They were following the falsehoods of the devil. They were worshiping Satan. And it was hard to forgive them. I had extreme rage when I started to remember, when the amnesia began to leave and I started to remember. And so it took a while, but then I started thinking, these people, they were raised to be Satanists. Like, they were born into a satanic family. And Satanists severely abuse their own children. And the reason they do that is so that the child will go, well, everyone has more power than me, and the only way I can have power is if I become like them. So that is how they get them into it. It's all a psyop. It's all their psychological damage that they do to make people desire power so strongly, and they think that the only way they're going to have power is if they join that cult. And so many of them really didn't have much of a choice. I mean, I nearly joined them. I was only in it for I only claimed myself to be a Satanist for about a month, maybe 2. And then I read the New Testament of the Bible, and I said, nope, I can't be a Satanist. I love this Jesus guy. So as soon as I read the New Testament, I was like, no, I just wanted power. The reason why and then I saw Jesus had more power than them, because Jesus could cast demons out. I wanted to choose the more powerful option. And so that is one way, if you ever meet someone who is a Satanist, one way you can appeal to them, because they were so disempowered in their childhood. They were made to feel so helpless and powerless that they crave power. And it's not a bad thing. People should have autonomy over their bodies, and they should have the say over what